Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Life at Leyton podcast with me, Sarah Glanville, as your host. Here at Leyton UK, we know our people are more than just their jobs. Their careers are part of their unique lives, and who they are as a whole person is what fundamentally contributes to their success and the success of our business. In the podcast, we spend time with exceptional people from across the business. Each episode explores the people behind the job titles, the unique and brilliant stories that make them who they are. We've taken a few months off as we have moved through our financial year end, but we are back today to talk with 5 of our exceptional people from our sales and business development teams. Today's episode is an insightful panel discussion with our Sales Annual Award winners. I'm sure that everyone listening is going to get so much from this episode. So thank you all for tuning in. Grab yourself a coffee and get ready to be inspired by the people that are Leyton UK. Hello and welcome back to the Life at Leyton podcast with me, Sarah Glanville, as your host. We have had a short hiatus here as we wrapped up our financial year end in June and have jumped headfirst into our new year from July. And that leads us nicely on to introducing this episode's guest to the podcast. We are kicking off the second half of our second season with a panel discussion with our 2024 annual award winners from our sales development and business development teams. Congratulations to you all on your excellent performance through our last financial year and your award wins. So to start us off, could you each briefly introduce yourself and share a bit about your journey at Leyton UK so far? Louis, do you want to start us off?
So my name's Louis. I've been at Leyton now 5 years, coming up to 6. Started in the trenches, so sales dev, moving up to BD. I've now been a manager, a team leader manager for the last 2.5, 3 years. So I won the business development sales manager of the year. That's me.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. Ibrahim, do you want to tell us all about yourself?
My name's Ibrahim, of course. I joined Leyton last year, May 2023. I've been here for a year and 3 months. Just recently started working as BD, started in as ST for a year. I won Sales Developer of the Year. And that's pretty much it.
Fantastic. And Lewis?
Hi, my name is Lewis. I've been at Leyton for a little over 2 years now. Started out as a junior commercial executive, climbed up the ladder to BD in a year, and currently a business development manager at the moment. Loving it. I won the One to Watch Best Newcomer Award for the year.
For business development?
Yes.
Fab. And Max?
Hey, Sarah. So I've been at Leyton for, it will actually be my 5-year anniversary in, the beginning of September. So half a decade, and I started off similar to everyone in this call on the trenches sales dev, and I'm actually the only person in this call still there, having gone from senior to TL to manager to senior manager, and now lead the London function. I won sales development manager of the year.
I'm Dean. I started at Leyton 3 years ago as a BDE, an external BDE. Worked up to BDM after I think a year, and I just as of July I'm a senior BDM now, and I also taken a wee bit of a sidestep where I focused more on our energy incentives and pushing that side of the business.
Great. And how did you move into that kind of energy specific role?
Pretty much I was just interested in it. I seen some success in it early on. I then, through that success, got interested in it more because it meant big opportunities. And I then sort of dug into it a bit more. I suppose out with the typical day job, going out and researching it and figuring out how best to find opportunity, I suppose. And through doing that, I just gained good knowledge on it, and then I was able to share best practice with folk, and that was really it. I won, and I'm looking at it just now, Business Developer of the Year. It was a good night.
Yeah, great night, and in large part to your success with the energy products, as you've mentioned, which is really good. Fab. That's great. So thank you all for that. It's great to hear the success that you guys have had so far. Do you want to talk, I guess, about specific skills or qualities that you think have been crucial to your success in sales, and how have you developed your skills throughout your time at Leyton? Max, do you want to kick us off, seeing as you've been here for half a decade? You've got so much wisdom to impart.
Yeah, sure. I think the kind of key thing for me would be curiosity. I'd say that's the kind of key trait, whether that be about wanting to understand more about the different products we sell, the different industries we target, or just a curiosity in regards to sales in general, wanting to get better each day than the previous one, or learning about our systems, about newest ways to prospect, utilize Salesforce, all of that stuff. I think that once that curiosity dwindles, you fall into being stuck in old habits that ultimately mean that you don't progress. But if you come into work with a mindset of being even 1% better than you were the day before, that whole marginal gains theory really does pay dividends. And, whenever I interview someone and they always say, what's your favorite thing about this job? I always give a two-part answer of, one, I love the culture, but the other thing is, I don't think there's a day that goes by where I don't learn something new in this job, whether it be about struggles in industries facing or whatever. I just think that curiosity to want to be better and to want to continue to learn, it will take you so far.
That's so important. And I think just the pace of change as well at the moment, like all the things that we have to come up against with AI and, the economy, the market, how quickly things change. Like I think that's such an important skill that you've got to be able to hone. Ibrahim, how about you? What do you think your specific skill or quality is that you think is crucial to your success?
Personally, I think one of the most important things towards success, especially in sales and at Leyton, I think, of course, persistence. If you're persistent with anything, eventually you do break through. And of course, a lot of the time, especially when people start new, it's very hard to take rejection sometime in sales because it is a numbers game where you have to keep trying. A lot of the time you're going to get no's. But if you keep that persistence up, you eventually end up breaking through. So having that persistence as well as a good combination of working smart and hard, I think those three combined, and of course, as Max said, with the curiosity as well, you'll make it in sales for sure. It's just a combination of those things.
Perfect. That's great. And Lewis, how about you?
Yeah, completely agree with Ibrahim there. Pretty much stole my answer. But something I would probably add to that is obviously there's going to be hard times and good times, especially in sales. But the main thing to be important is to be consistent with everything that you're doing, everything that you can control. Be consistent in doing that, and the results will come. Working at for 2 years at the moment, I know even the bad times go over. The results always follow at the end of the day. And I think another thing that's quite good is willingness to learn. There's so many resources and so many people here that are so experienced. At any point when you need help, the support is available. And the more you learn is obviously the more you improve, and that shows into your results as well at the end of the day.
I suppose for me, it's curiosity. If you really dig into what a business is doing and understand what they're trying to achieve, and then you're able to frame what you're doing as helping them achieve that, it's almost a no-brainer for them to agree with you. And I think curiosity is the main thing. That's why I've sort of went down the energy route. That's why I've been able to find some big opportunities, because, it's all prospecting, etc. But I think that the crucial part is just being curious about your clients, what challenges they face, what are they talking about, and then being able to articulate that back to a client so they sort of trust what you're saying, I suppose.
Yeah, like a genuine curiosity. You can't fake that.
Yeah.
You've actually got to care.
Yeah, I think
Great.
a lot of interactions that some people have with clients come across as not genuine because it's almost like they're reading off a list of things in that sector, say X, Y, and Z, and it's very easy to just say them and expect the client to be bought in. But I think conveying that sort of genuine essence to it is really important to build trust.
Bang on, that's great. And Louis, sorry to give you the
Go on.
last slot to answer the question, but maybe you could talk, I guess, a little bit about the skills and qualities that you think are fundamental to success, but maybe also share an example of maybe how that's supported you in your career or with a deal in particular.
Yeah. I think coming at it from like a leadership management point of view, I think the biggest thing is really establishing what you want your management style to be, your leadership style, and not being scared to go against the grain. So I've read lots of books, theories, things like that, taken good bits, bad bits from managers in the past, and I think that the biggest thing for me and what's been key to my success and my team's success is, consultancy is about people, understanding what our people want, what our needs, personal drivers, individual drivers within the business as well, to really understand that. And I think the biggest thing for me is going against the grain. So instead of from a leader's point of view, managing, leading from the front, I don't really agree with that. I think it's about leading from behind to empower people, give people the confidence to actually express themselves. On the call here, there's 3-4 salespeople here straight away, and you're all completely different. So it's essentially my job to empower you guys to actually express yourself, and try something different and just be confident in that. So yeah, that'll probably be the biggest one. Example wise of that, so last year in Manchester, sort of record breaking year for the team, managed the largest team. Everyone was completely different. If I was asking one person to do the exact same what was working for someone else, the results wouldn't work. Had someone come across to the team that previously done 200 grand, come across to my team. Obviously, it's all them. It's not me. Come across to my team and done 600k. That was just purely by working smart. So, what are their strengths? What do they like doing? What stuff don't they like doing? Can I take off their desk? Just to really empower them and give them the confidence. And that's probably my biggest achievement, is seeing people with a bit of a swagger, that confidence. And then at the end of the year, they come back to you and say, yeah, cheers. Thanks a lot, mate. We've managed to get there, and again, achieve their goals outside of work by doing something like that.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting take on it. You often hear about people talking about trying to develop their weaknesses, or like they've identified things that they're not so good at, and that's their focus area for their professional development, is improving the things that they're not so good at. And there's obviously value in that. But I think sometimes, like what you've said there, is like finding what people's strengths are and really like focusing on developing their strengths. That's how you become exceptional, is by focusing on what you're really good at.
Yeah, 100%. It's that sort of world-class basics mantra in terms of what you're good at, what can you keep doing consistently. I think if you're constantly focusing on weaknesses, we've all got weaknesses, you get bogged down with the day-to-day instead of actually, this is what you're really good at, keep going on this. And it's that, like, actually stopping is hard in commercial, hard in consultancy, to take a step back sometimes and be, actually, you're not doing a bad job here. And that sort of mantra and that ethos as a manager, I think, is being able to sort of foster collaboration, but also a high performing team from there.
Fantastic. Next questions, I guess, dialing back a little bit and looking at coaching development that you've had at Leyton, and whether that you feel that has contributed towards your growth and success. So has there been any particular moments or experiences that you've had at Leyton, specifically with the coaching development, that you've received that have had a significant impact on your career? Lewis, do you want to kick us off with that question?
Yeah, of course. I think when I initially started as a sales developer, I had a lot of help and support by my managers, who was actually Max Brown and Oliver Gross. At every single stage, the coaching support is always there. And then moving on, the sort of coaching transition to working with James Swift, who was very helpful with the transition from sales development to business development. Obviously, with business development, it's pretty much a larger, more overall sales process, and there was a lot of help and support there. In addition to all the obviously internal resources we have as well, I know we've also partnered up with other sources like my sales coach. For me, my sales coach last year was a very important factor. To get an outside perspective on my overall work was very important, and it definitely helped me a lot to sort of focus on things that I can control, things that I can't control. But yeah, it's readily available. It's really helpful, and I would stop it.
Yeah, that's great. Max, do you want to maybe pick up from what Lewis has said there? Like, you've obviously had you've taken an important role in developing the sales developers that have come through in the London office. over the last few years. So what's your thoughts on, I guess, the coaching development that you guys deliver as managers that take people from sales developers through to business development into that team, and also I guess the effect it's had on you personally as well?
Yeah, I think it's never lost on me how, without trying to big up the role too much, how critical it is, because ultimately for so many people it's an entry level sales role. It can really make or break whether it's actually a viable career for them, and if they don't get that right support, then it's very easy to, after 6 months of sales, to go, do you know what, I hate this isn't for me. And ultimately at the end of the day, we have a fantastic L&D team, got to pay tribute to them. The induction is exceptional in regards to the way it's mapped out, the areas it's covered, the cadence of it, etc. And that gives them a real solid foundation when they come out of it. But the real job that we play, particularly as sales managers, is the honing of that and actually taking the kind of more theoretical side of things and translating it into, okay, how can it practically be used on the phone? How are we overcoming these objections? That kind of stuff. And it's so firstly, just to say, it's so rewarding to see people who potentially don't have it click for them first time round, watch them actually excel. Some of my greatest success stories have certainly been people who, similar to Louis, struggled when they first joined the team, and now I can walk around the BD floor and I can point to 4, 5, 6 people who have gone from never having made a cold call before in their life to earning serious amounts of commission whilst also now being in field sales. So that's really rewarding. I think it is the kind of key things I think we look for in sales dev is that coachability aspect. That's the kind of key trait we're looking for in the interview process. Is realistically, can someone come in, take on feedback and implement it going forward? And if someone can do that, you can teach them loads of other stuff, but that fundamental ability to want to get better and be able to implement that coaching is so important. I do think there's probably no, the others might disagree with me on this, but I'd say that coaching probably plays the most important role on SD than it does in any other department in the business, just because of the chronology of it and someone's tenure.
Yeah, it's coming in with like maybe no previous sales experience or limited sales experience, and taking them from that really kind of entry level role through to being able to, as you say, move into a field sales role. And for you personally, how has coaching development affected your career at Leyton, like as someone who's being coached and being developed?
It's immeasurable. Like as I said earlier, I think having that curious brain and wanting to continue to get better is so important, but without having that shepherd like guiding you, or that person mentoring you to try and get you to that next level, there's only so much self-learning that you can do. I've been really lucky in the fact of having not only phenomenal managers when I joined, but working with Swifty on, for instance, the old senior training program that he used to do. I still use a lot of that in my day-to-day coaching my team. The collaborative work that I did with other SD managers, again, I'll pay tribute to Ross Devlin. I still use his building value framework in all my coaching. The work that I've done with Josh Felton on the leadership development program, the external training from my sales coach, and then he gets so much airtime on these things. He just loves podcasts in general. But Jack Hankey, hate having to pay tribute to him, but it is worth saying that as a mentor throughout the business and the kind of advice that he gives, and the way that, as you say, now it's more kind of leading the department, it's less coaching, more so mentoring, but having that soundboard, having someone you can always go and bounce ideas off is so important. And even Charlie Precious as well, he's now obviously left the business, but he taught me some real fundamentals when it came down to sales processes and effectively managing a team. So I think, yeah, if you want stellar training, you're certainly not short of it at Leyton.
Yeah, that's great. So good to hear.
I would say at Leyton it's primarily the sort of ethos of continuous improvement, and people taking their own initiative and going out and trying to understand their clients, who they're speaking to. Leyton's quite unique in that I feel like we get to speak to some really interesting companies just because we do all the R&D, etc. And if you can just sort of get a bit of sort of bought in to understanding their world, then that's really what's going to set you apart. Leyton's training sort of scheme or whatever gives you the sort of bare bones of how to have a conversation, what you should be asking, etc. But I think it's the the ethos of going out and learning more that really helps.
Yeah. Louis, how about you? How has coaching development at Leyton affected the trajectory of your career here?
Yeah, really, really useful. I think, like obviously touching what the guys have said there, the biggest thing, it gives you that framework. So this is what the skeleton. It's up to you guys to add a bit of flair on top of it. But I think the biggest thing is that continuous improvement. So as you progress with the business into a more senior leadership role, you've always got that that sounding board as well. And I think it's like I just mentioned earlier, it's that confidence to actually try something different, go against the grain. And going against grain doesn't mean sacking off these frameworks. They're there to use, they're there to adopt. And I think it's that confidence that you can adopt these frameworks and use them. And I think as well, it's that back to basics. Sometimes you have new joiners join the team. It's a niche area of tax. They need to understand that. And going back to those basics to really sort of hone your skills, I think is fantastic. And I think the main thing really is, your high performers. Training and development doesn't start and stop with new joiners. The high performers are still getting access to this, which I think is fantastic. So yeah.
Yeah, and you both Lewis and Max had mentioned my sales coach. Is that something you've benefited from as well, Louis?
Yeah. So benefited from them. I think the main thing I benefited was the chartered management course that I've done for the last 2 years. So finished that last month. So yeah, now a chartered manager. So a few letters after the name and stuff like that. But it's not the reason why I do it. But again, it's something that Leyton have paid for. So grateful for that. But again, it allows you to really hone in your skills, establish what you want to be as a manager, as a leader, and put to practice. So done quite a lot of it at university, but now you're actually in a leadership role. You can use that, and there's been loads of theories, loads of frameworks that I've used and really took forward for the team, and this has helped that trajectory really.
Brilliant. It's clear to see there's so much investment from the internal L&D team, but also opportunity for external training. Ibrahim, you're the newest tenured member of this team, although you have been here for some time now. What has coaching and development looked like for you over your time at Leyton, taking you from, joining in as a commercial executive or a junior member of our sales development team, and then moving through to being a BDE now in our business development team?
I must say, compared to other companies I've worked with, Leyton definitely has a really great amount of access to learning materials, as well as my sales coaches, Lewis and Max touched upon. But not only that, there's also a really great culture of helping each other, just even peers, as well as my manager was Max, as well as Ollie, but even some of my peers, like my colleague Race, he was really great at R&D, and a lot of the times I would ask him for help and he would help me. So there's a great culture of actually helping among each other, as well as things such as my sales coach and essentially the teachings that they give you. When I started, of course, R&D and tax in general is very complex, as well as all the other services we offer. So we have learned a lot, and it is a great undertaking for the likes of Max or my previous manager, Ollie and Dan, to do, but they did, of course, a great job. And now, a year and a half later, I'm very much more clued up on it, but still not entirely. There's still always so much more to learn. It's such a complex subject, but I think Leyton do a great job at supplying the information there for you to access.
Yeah, because there's the two parts to it, isn't there? There's when you join in that sales development role, and it's the start of your sales career. Really, you've got the technical knowledge of the product that you need to learn, but you also have the sales skills and the ability to have those conversations, meaningful conversations with decision makers. So it sounds like you've been able to get, I guess, a real kind of fast learning on both the parts of that, Ibrahim, and it been a mix? Sounds like it's been a mixture of the on the floor coaching that you've had from Dan, Max, and Ollie, and also the structured framework that Louis was talking around with the L&D team being able to put together the programs for you to learn the products successfully. It's been a blend of the two. Yeah. a question to anyone who feels they want to answer this. What advice would you give to someone that is looking to make the most of Leyton's coaching and development opportunities? Like, does anyone have a thought around how someone capitalizes on the opportunity here to learn?
I think something really important with coaching is and making the most of it is actually setting targets off the back of it. It's really easy to attend a session and then talk about it, and people can very easily play lip service to their managers, but actually, any manager worth their salt should be setting smart targets off the back of it, of okay, next time we meet, this is what we want to be doing. I think if you are proactive with getting that done and you're creating that feedback loop where you are going, I've done this, I've taken that on board, I've gone and tried to implement it, what do you think? And then providing examples back, that's how you can really elevate it to the next level. And it takes the training from training to being coaching, where actually you're trying to solve actual problems rather than taking a generalist approach. And fully appreciate sometimes some salespeople have a million and one things to do, and at the end of the day, you don't get paid for coaching. You want to be focusing on deals, but if you do take on board that coaching and utilize it in the correct way, it's only ever going to, in the long run, earn you more money. But I think if you are really, really strict with yourself and always do what you say you're going to do and follow up correctly, then you can really elevate it and take it to the next level. Sounds basic, but will take you a long way.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I think
Max.
adding that as well, like shameless plug to a course that I was doing. And a guest speaker who's like Britain's best boss, Chris Brindley, and what he done and I take into my team now is 24/7/30 or 24/7/31. So essentially what that means is after the training, after meeting, whatever it is, what are you going to do in the next 24 hours? So what's the action point from there? What are you going to do in the next 7 days? What are you going to do in the next 30 or 31 days? So Max said there is that smart target, but also you're holding people to account. Using an analogy of, say, for example, you've got the Olympics last week or whatever. If someone wants to jump high jump, in the next 3 years, they want to get 2 inches higher, splitting that up across, a month, a week, quarter, whatever it is, surely you'd be able to increase it by 0.001 of an inch 1 week, by the next week, by the third week. And I think that's really helped, obviously, myself, but also my team then, is just actually cutting things down and understanding. So in the next 24 hours, what are you going to do with this information? What are you going to do with this training? Because then after that 30 days, it becomes a habit. And that's when you see people progress from there.
Yeah, I think it's so key, isn't it? When you've got opportunities to access training and coaching, you also have to be accountable for putting in the work afterwards. It's not just enough to have access to it. You've got to take it in and to understand the value of it. Lewis, Ibrahim, anything else to add on that? Any advice you would give someone to make the most of coaching and development at Leyton?
If you don't ask, you'll never learn. So you need to ask questions. Don't be scared. Everyone at Leyton, even if it's not your direct manager, anyone, a BD or another senior SD would always be available to help. So don't be scared to ask questions, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. That's so important. Ibrahim?
Yeah, I would agree with Lewis. You need to be curious enough to actually seek it, because it's there and it's available for everyone. And I think one thing that many people, including myself, might be guilty of is not taking advantage of what is actually there to the fullest extent. So I think, of course, it'd be best to just kind of like seek it, keep curious about it.
Yeah, so important. And you have all chosen to have a career in sales, and we could probably talk for a while about how we've all stumbled into a career in sales, because some people choose it, some people find themselves there. But for anyone who's out there now considering moving into a career in sales, what would you say are the key factors to consider? What advice would you have to someone to help them succeed and to stand out in what is really a competitive field?
I think people sometimes look down at sales or see sales as a bad word. And I think what they need to realize is that sales is probably one of the most important factors of business, if not the most important factor of business. And what you do in sales is mega important. There's no companies aren't going to come to you without having outreach. People sometimes just think of sales as a bad word or as a nuisance whenever they're speaking to a client. They really shouldn't. It's like one of the most important things for all companies. So I think, if you remember that when you're phoning somebody or speaking to somebody, then your time is important and they, should listen to you. Then I think you give off the sort of right, I don't know, cues to sound and be important and trustworthy, etc., etc. I think people should remember that if they're considering sales. This isn't something you should be scared of speaking to a CEO about. That CEO could well be, needing your help. So don't, I suppose, don't be shy of speaking or reaching out to folk.
Yeah, this is definitely something that's been said in 100 classrooms to salespeople at different times, but how you sound on the phone is such a large part of what people actually hear. It's not just the words that you're saying, it's how you're saying it. So what you said on is so right there about, your time is valuable and you could really be supporting someone. And if you go in with that consultative approach, like you were mentioning at the beginning, it's a two-way conversation that's going to add value to that person's business, and it's important to remember that. So is there something that you wish you'd known when you started off in your first job in sales? Because you didn't start at Leyton, did you? You started somewhere else.
Yeah, 2009 or something I started in sales way back when, the call center, business to consumer, so yeah, it's been quite a while. I think what I wish I'd known, probably what I just said, I wish I'd considered sales as an important thing and not just a nuisance, or at the time for me a means to an end, in the call center. What else? Maybe I think one of the things I would say is also, people go into a sales meeting with an agenda, and what they should really be, and obviously they want to get to their goal at the end, which is being able to put a proposal in front of someone or whatever it might be. But I think they need to also be able to listen, and then again, this is very much it's been said a million times, but like sort of actively listen and let the client talk, because a lot of the time people will jump in and talk over clients or whatever. Let the client talk, go at the pace of the client, but obviously hold their hand to get to where you want to go at the end of that meeting. So I think that's maybe something as well, let the client talk. And I think I've realized that more and more as I've, been gaining experience.
I bit of background into myself. I've done sales before when I was in university. Not cold calling, but it was door to door for charity fundraising, which is a lot more brutal. A big takeaway I had from that is obviously not to deal with the rejection. If I do the numbers, the result will follow. I sort of implemented the same thing on sales development at Leyton. And I think when you come to a job in a very highly competitive environment, it's really important to have a good mindset. To have a mindset where you should always know there's going to be bad days and good days. But if you do the numbers, the law of averages always applies to sales. You will get the results. And to obviously improve that, work with your managers, work with everyone else around you, use the support to improve your quality. Therefore, you increase your conversion rate. Do both things together, you make a lot of money.
Yeah, I think it's so important, isn't it? Like understanding that targets and KPIs are there for a reason, because they are a foundation to success, and then you improve upon your own individual KPIs by honing the skills and being able to improve your conversion rates. But yeah, if you do the work, the results should follow. That's very apt. Ibrahim, do you want to answer that question? What advice would you have to someone who is considering a career in sales?
Yeah, just like we said initially, and as Lewis has also just said, persistence, I think, is the most key part of sales, because you will come across rejection, you will come across difficult admin, maybe having a conflict with someone over an op that you work with. So in all of that, I think persistence is the only key, and you just have to take it each day as it comes. Personally, I set a target for each day or something I want to achieve that day, and whether I achieve it or not, the next day is a new day and another day to achieve something new. So I think just keeping yourself persistent, and as like Lewis said, getting rejection might make it a bit hard sometimes, or kind of lower down your drive. But if you just keep persistent and kind of just take it as it comes, it just will work out.
Yeah. I don't know if you have an answer to this, and if you don't, it's fine. But do you have like a why? So you talk about like keeping resilient or keeping persistent, and I think it really helps if you've got a bit of an underlying motivation or something that you know why you're doing what you're doing and what the outcome is. So that
Yeah.
could be anything. Do you have something in particular that keeps you
Um,
persistent and resilient?
yeah, I think everyone might have a different ethos,
Yeah.
the way they live. But me personally, I am quite reward driven, and in sales, it is about compensation, about reward. So I do focus on that, but also I just have a personal ethos where everything that I do in my life, I want to try to do it to the best of my ability. So I think it's just that, either just finding some sort of drive, whether you want to have the numbers, you want to win an award, you want the money, or you want to just get recognition, or even just for yourself to just prove to yourself that you're capable of something. I think everyone just has a different ethos, but for me, that is what it is.
Yeah, I think it's bang on. It's no surprise to anyone that people are financially driven in sales careers, but like I think it's good to point out that that is something that you think about, and that is what keeps you on task. Is being reward driven, which is great. Louis, what's your thoughts? What advice would you have to someone who's wanting to be successful or to stand out in sales?
Yeah, I'd just say, obviously, it sounds very cliche, but be yourself, be your authentic self. Like I said, there's 4 people on the call here with vast different backgrounds. You're going into the world, say, for example, ours of tax, R&D tax, predominantly, white middle class males, speaking posh on the phone. That, there's 3 of us, probably Max, you fall into the ones that speak posh middle class, mate, sorry. But there's 3 of us here that complete different backgrounds. It's an age-old thing, people buy from people. Understanding, again, going back to that why, going back to your strengths, what is it, what is your individual unique selling point compared to your peers, compared to someone else, and it's through obviously the training, the tools, coaching, such as obviously growth frameworks, people like Max, myself, that give you that confidence to actually be yourself. If you're trying, on the phone, on meetings, on site audits, whatever it is, trying to be someone you're not, and you've read through a script and things like that, it'll eventually wear off, and it'll eventually your veil will essentially slip. So just be yourself, be authentic. Again, people buy from people, so just make sure you're getting that point across, really.
Love it. Perfect. And Max, I'll give you the last word, which you'll love, I'm sure. Is there something that you wish you'd known before you started your sales journey that you think could help others? Is there something, a bit of advice that would be like the golden ticket?
Well, cliche as it is, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. But I think to a lot of people who haven't yet been in sales might think it's all about the gift of the gab. Actually, I'd flip on his head and just say, shut up and listen. Like, you've got 2 ears, 1 mouth. Sales is all about asking questions to find problems, then provide a solution to it. But if you're doing the majority of the speaking, you're never actually going to hear those pain points that people have, and you're never going to be able to actually leverage them to illuminate how your solution can actually benefit their business. A lot of people will just come in and throw the kitchen sink and say, this is our product, this is why it's so amazing. Are they actually solving a problem the client has? Probably not. Have they actually even identified a problem the client has? Probably not. And I think that it's certainly, when you first start sales, it's something that you need to learn. And I think everyone learns at a different point. I'm relatively talkative myself. I used to just batter people with information until they agreed to meet up with me. And weirdly enough, they wouldn't show up a lot of the time. And then actually when you take the time to ask the right questions and listen to what they've got to say and then give them a tailored solution, then suddenly you find yourself having a lot more success. But that being said, you've got to put the graft in.
Absolutely. I think that's the perfect way to finish that answer. Like, that was a great insight, really important. So before I wrap up, has anyone got like anything else that they want, any other knowledge bombs that they want to drop, or any follow-up points on anything anyone else has said? No?
All good.
All good. Guys, that was fantastic. Thank you all for sitting down and chatting with me and providing your insight on what it takes to be successful in a sales career. And it's great to see the success you guys have all had. So hopefully our listeners are going to get a lot from that. Thank you to everyone for listening along. We'll be back in a few weeks with our next episode, and we're going to be speaking to our consultant annual award winners. But until then, have a good few weeks. Thanks a lot. This has been the Life at Leyton podcast.